quad-core Intel boxes, and we have 14 storage servers, which are pretty much the same specification as the database servers, except they have 12 disks in each of them. And we have an InfiniBand network to connect it all together. And that's pretty much it, actually. There's a couple of connectivity switches in there, but that is all it is. So it's nothing from a hardware perspective that's particularly complex or particularly complicated or particularly costly. They are commodity components taken from, in this case, Sun. But I think what I'm going to do now is go through piece by piece why this is actually faster. So for the start, we've taken the absolute top of the range of those commodity servers. So we've got the brand new Nehalem Xeon 5500 chips. We have moved to quad data rate InfiniBand. We've got the fastest SAS links you can get, and the entire thing is now also DDR3 DRAM. We've got SAS disks, which have larger capacity and more throughput. We've also can offer the 2 terabyte size SATA disks. We've also upgraded the memory, so we've got 72 gigabytes per database node. That's 8 nodes of 72 gigabytes each. And we've also got 4 Ethernet links per database node. But all of those database nodes are exactly the same. So it's a very, very straightforward and simple setup, but using the best kit we can get. So what makes a difference? Well, the difference is that we are now changing where the processing happens in that configuration. Traditionally, all of the complex processing would all be done in the database servers. But through the use of our storage software that we run in those storage cells, we can now push down into those storage cells certain parts of the software and the processing which are better done very close to the disk. So one of the key things here is filtering data. So it doesn't really make much sense for maybe a 10 terabyte table to be entirely shifted from a storage SAN right the way across a large fiber channel network into the database servers if you're only looking for a very small number of rows. So what we've done is take that filter and run it inside the storage cells. So they now run at the internal speed of the PCI bus within the servers, and only send back to the database servers the rows which are hit rows. And that can make an absolutely tremendous difference to the scan speeds. For those of you who are familiar with Netezza, this is very similar to the Netezza idea, where they put their FPGAs very close to the disk. So what we've done here is, rather than using FPGAs, we used the Nehalem processors and put those very close to the disk. So some of these ideas are not necessarily new, but it's the combination of all the ideas coming together that really makes a difference. So I've already talked about mentioned the InfiniBand. So the 40 gigabyte per second InfiniBand is 10 times as fast as the fiber channel connectivity that you tend to get within data centers these days. So, but we didn't really stop there. So there's one thing that is quite substantially different, that it isn't necessarily a commodity, and that is the flash storage we've added. So we've put 5 terabytes of flash storage inside one of these cabinets, and that is a tremendous amount of cache compared to the competitors. So that cabinet I showed you earlier, really the top of the range stuff, tends to have maybe about 256 gig of cache, maybe if you're very lucky, and maybe half a terabyte. But inside ours here, we've put 5 terabytes. And that, again, is a game-changing approach. And we haven't put this flash in as solid-state disk. We've put it in as flash connected directly to the PCI, which means you can run a lot faster than any solid-state disk that you might have an option on. So what does all that achieve for us? Well, we can push through this, millions of transactions per minute, tens of millions of queries. We have that 880 gigabyte aggregate throughput, and our storage servers can do, in aggregate, 1 million IOs per second. So that 1 million IOs per second is right up there with absolutely the best of the very, very large cabinets that any of the other vendors. And we're doing that at a very, very small scale and a comparatively small cost. So how can you buy it? Well, I've talked so far on all the statistics that I've been quoting have tended to be around the single cabinet, but we understand that most companies don't need to go to the full cabinet straight away, and I think the increasing trend within data warehousing is to do very much incremental deliveries. And so we can start with a quarter rack. the basic system there tends to be, it doesn't really have any redundancy built into it, so we tend to recommend that maybe as a development or as a test system. But if you look from production systems, the quarter rack is really the start point, and you can continue to upgrade from that by going from a quarter to a half to a full rack, and you can do that pretty much entirely while the database is running. So you don't have to take the database offline to repartition. All that happens whilst the database is actually running. So here's the product family, and those are some stats. I won't go through all of those, but I hope to make available at some later point the presentation, and those figures are also available from the Oracle website. So if you are looking for more detail on this, on the website there are a lot of white papers and a lot of data sheets which give all of this information in far more detail than I can cover today. So if you just do a search on Exadata, it'll take you to the main Oracle pages with the Exadata website in there.
Just to interrupt there, Simon, we'll be sending out copies of the slides to all the attendees today, and there'll also be a recording of today's webinar available afterwards as well. So if anybody wants this information, it will be sent out to you later on today.
Thanks, David. So I've talked there about scaling up to one rack, but it doesn't actually stop there. The connectivity in a single rack already has everything ready for you to go to more than one rack. And in fact, you can go to 8 racks without anything external. We can go beyond 8 racks, but then you need a couple of extra InfiniBand switches to enable that connectivity. So, so what you buy when you buy an initial rack is you get that rack, but you also get the connectivity to continue further than that. So we can pretty much go to multi-petabyte databases, although at the moment, none of our customers have gone to that level. So we'd be interested if you do want to go that level, we'd be very keen to work with you. So the other thing that we have learned, I think, from some of our competitors over the last few years is that Oracle, when we sell Oracle just as software, then it can be quite difficult to set up, and the hardware underneath can be quite difficult to put together to achieve this. So we've learned that lesson, and what we're doing with Exadata for the first time is to provide a total set of kit which will be delivered into your site. It will be plugged in, it will be configured, and it will have all the Oracle software installed there, and the database will be created, and then we'll run a number of tests on it to make sure the database is performing, and only at that point will we actually hand it over to you. And all that takes just a couple of days on site. So if you were to order these and go and delivered, so 2 days after the box gets delivered, you should be up and running and able to run the performance that you've seen in these proof of concepts. So I think that also, from an Oracle point of view, is a new service that we're offering, and I think adds significant benefit to the way that we tended to do things in the past. And it's with our close cooperation with Sun that we're able to do this. So I'm going to switch tack now and look specifically, I think, at some of the features for data warehousing. And before we do that, we'll do another quick poll. And so if you could just choose one of the following. So are you interested in Exadata for data warehousing, for transaction processing, for consolidation, a mixture of them, or maybe you're just browsing and just want to know about the technology? So if you could choose through that poll, and we'll go through the results of that in a second.
Okay, we're just waiting for the last few people to vote now, and 75% of people voted.
So just while that's happening, if any of you are interested in knowing more about Exadata or would like a meeting with myself or with anybody else, if you just send in the information through some of the email addresses that we'll give when we send out the documentation later, we'll be more than happy to arrange a conversation. So we've got the results through now, and that's a fair mix actually. So we've got data warehousing at 11%, transaction processing at 17%, consolidation at 6%, a mixture at 55%, and just browsing at 11%. Well, from my point of view, just browsing is a very low number, which is great. So so there's some really good interest there, and I'm very keen to see actually that 17% in transaction processing. And I'll do a little section towards the end of this hour around the TP part. So what we've seen so far is the majority of customers who have bought version 1 machines have used it for data warehousing. So I'll cover those features first.